To understand why Jason was so convinced I couldn't survive without him, you have to understand our marriage, or rather, the illusion he built around it. When Jason and I met in our late 20s, we were both ambitious. I had a degree in business analytics, and Jason had a passion for tech project management. We fell in love, bought a modest townhouse, and decided to build a life together. When Jason got hired at a mid-sized tech consultancy, he struggled. He was great with clients and presenting in boardroom meetings, but when it came to execution, strategy, and late-night crunching of actual data, he was lost. So, I stepped up. Because that's what partners do, right? Every single night for 7 years, while Jason drank beer and watched football, I sat at our dining table with his laptop. I built his slide decks. I audited his operational strategies. I rewrote his corporate proposals. When he got promoted to VP of Strategy, it was my data models that won him the pitch. To the corporate world, Jason was a rising star, a smooth-talking genius who brought in millions. To me, Jason was a project. Over time, the dynamic twisted. Jason started believing his own press releases. He forgot who wrote the speeches he delivered. He forgot who spent 8 hours on a Sunday solving the software bottlenecks that almost cost him his job. He started treating me like a housemate whose only job was to manage the household and look pretty at company dinners. When I brought up wanting to take a full-time executive role at a growing analytics firm that had recruited me, he shut it down immediately. "Maya, let's be realistic," he told me over dinner one night. "You're a great assistant behind the scenes. You're detail-oriented. But you don't have executive presence. You don't have what it takes to survive in the C-suite. Stick to freelancing from home." I swallowed my pride. I loved him, so I stayed in his shadow. The downfall of our marriage didn't happen because of a huge fight. It happened because Jason got arrogant. 8 months ago, his company went through a massive corporate restructuring. A hedge fund bought them out, and overnight, Jason's department was hit with strict performance audits. For the first time in 7 years, Jason couldn't just hand me his work at 8 p.m. and expect a pristine package by 6 a.m. I was exhausted. I was tired of being invisible. When he dumped 3 file folders on my lap on a Friday night, asking me to build his quarterly review, I quietly closed the folders and handed them back to him. "No, Jason," I said softly. "You're the VP. You build it." He lost his mind. He yelled. He slammed doors. He accused me of sabotaging him. Without my work behind him, his quarterly review was a disaster. His higher-ups criticized his lack of depth, his sloppy metrics, and his inability to answer granular questions. Instead of taking accountability, he blamed me. He said my negative energy was ruining his focus. 3 weeks later, he came home with divorce papers already drafted by his lawyer. "I need a partner who elevates me, not someone who drags me down," he declared, standing in our living room with his bags packed. "You've gotten comfortable, Maya. You're lazy. I give it 6 months before you're crawling back to your parents because you can't pay rent." He signed his half, left the papers, and walked out. He thought he was cutting off dead weight. He didn't realize he was removing the engine from his own car. The week after Jason left, I didn't spend my days crying into a tub of ice cream. I called the managing partner at Times Aegis Global, Times the executive recruitment firm that had reached out to me 2 years prior. I told them I was available, immediately. When they interviewed me, they didn't just look at my resume, they tested me. They gave me a real-time operational crisis to solve on a whiteboard during a 4-hour interview. And guess what? I didn't need Jason's executive presence. I had something better. Actual expertise. I was hired as Senior Vice President of Operations, with a starting package that dwarfed what Jason had been making. Over the next 5 months, while the divorce finalizations moved quietly through court, I threw myself into my work. I restructured 3 underperforming divisions. I saved the firm $4 million in redundant software licensing in my first 90 days. I built a team that respected me, not because I gave flashy speeches, but because I knew how to get things done. Meanwhile, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Jason's career was spiraling. Without my background work, his presentation fluff fell apart. The new hedge fund owners at his firm didn't care about his charisma. They cared about results. 4 months after he walked out on me, Jason was quietly laid off during a executive downsizing. He spent 2 months blowing through his savings, trying to land another VP role. But the tech market in Chicago was tight, and word spreads fast when a former VP can't answer basic technical questions during interviews. He was desperate. He started applying for lower-level operational roles at major firms across the city, including Time's Aegis Global. The interview was scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Thursday. I instructed human resources not to mention my name to him during the preliminary phone screen. They simply told him he was coming in for a final round interview with the head of operations. I sat in the main conference room. The wall was floor-to-ceiling glass, overlooking the Chicago skyline. I wore a tailored midnight blue suit, my hair pinned back, with a gold pen in my hand. At 2 p.m. sharp, the door opened. Jason walked in. He was wearing his usual tailored suit, but I could see the subtle signs of wear. The slight dark circles under his eyes, the subtle tightness in his posture. He had his confident interviewer charm smile pasted on his face. He didn't look at my face immediately. He was looking at his portfolio as he took a seat across the mahogany table. "Good afternoon," Jason began, his voice echoing in the large room. "Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I'm very excited about the direction Aegis Global is taking." He looked up. His sentence died right in his throat. His eyes widened. His jaw literally slackened. The polished, charismatic VP persona evaporated in a single microsecond, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. "Maya?" he stammered, his voice cracking. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just offered a warm, professional nod. "Hello, Jason. Please, sit down." "What? What are you doing here?" he asked, looking around the massive executive room, as if waiting for a hidden camera crew to walk out. Do you work in HR?" I picked up his resume and tapped it neatly on the table. "I am the Senior Vice President of Operations," I said, keeping my tone crisp and neutral, "which means this department belongs to me, and this position reports directly to my office." The blood drained from his face so fast I thought he was going to faint right onto the conference table. "You," he whispered. "SVP? Let's stick to the resume, Jason," I said, leaning forward. "I was reviewing your past 3 years at your previous firm. You listed the Enterprise Optimization Project from 2024 as one of your main achievements. You claim you designed the cross-platform data pipeline yourself." He swallowed hard. Sweat was starting to glisten on his forehead. He knew knew Times who had actually spent 70 hours writing that pipeline architecture while he was on a golf trip in Scottsdale. "Maya, look," he began, his voice trembling. Can we talk about this outside? Privately?" "This is a professional interview, Mr. Vance," I replied, using his last name deliberately. "If you want this $250,000 role, you have to defend your work. So tell me, how did you calculate the latency tolerance for that pipeline?" He stared at me. He opened his mouth, closed it, and opened it again. Nothing came out. He didn't know. He had never known. Silence hung in the room for 5 long, agonizing seconds. Finally, I closed his folder. "That's what I thought," I said softly. Jason didn't get the job. I didn't reject him out of spite. I rejected him because he was genuinely unqualified for the role of truth that had been hidden for 7 years behind my quiet labor. I had our HR department send him a standard, automated rejection email 2 hours later. That evening, as I stood by my office window watching the sunset reflect off the Chicago River, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jason. "I'm sorry," it read, "for everything. I never realized how much you actually did." I didn't text back. Some apologies aren't meant to be accepted. They're just meant to be filed away as proof of your own growth. It's been 6 months since that interview. Jason ended up taking a junior project management role at a small firm in the suburbs, earning half of what he used to make. He's finally learning how to build his own slide decks. As for me, my division was just named the highest performing unit in the company, and I'm currently preparing for a promotion to executive vice president. When someone tells you that you can't survive without them, remember this. People often confuse your quiet support with weakness. They forget that the person standing in the background pulling the levers is the one who actually knows how the machine works. Never dim your light so someone else can shine. Step out of the shadow, take credit for your work, and let them see what happens when the foundation walks away. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. If you've ever had a doubt about your own strength, I hope this reminded you of what you're capable of. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life story times. Until next time, keep building your own empire.